Hello, and welcome to the Sleepy Oceanist, where we sink into the secrets of the sea one dreamy dive at a time. Tonight, we're plunging into a place so deep, so dark, and so deliciously mysterious that even the sunlight doesn't dare to follow. It's time to travel into the Mariana Trench, the deepest known point in Earth's oceans. But before we descend beneath the waves and into the crushing stillness, let me ask, where in the world are you floating off from tonight? Are you wrapped in blankets somewhere cozy, pretending your bed is a submarine? Or maybe you're just lying there wondering what on earth lives 7 miles below sea level. Leave a comment and tell me your location, even if it's my bed, ocean floor division. And if the thought of giant squids, eternal darkness, and underwater pressure strong enough to turn a watermelon into jelly doesn't scare you off, maybe click that like button and consider subscribing. It helps us stay afloat in the endless sea of the algorithm. Plus, it keeps this sleepy little submarine stocked with snacks. Now, fair warning, this journey is weirdly fascinating. It might accidentally keep you awake, but if it does, at least you'll be learning what happens far below the surface while pretending to drift off into peaceful aquatic dreams. So grab your pillow, adjust your snorkel, and get ready for a gentle but mind-bending journey to Earth's deepest ocean trench. Let's set the scene. The Pacific Ocean. You know it. You've probably seen it on a map, blue and vast and terrifyingly wide. But under its surface lies something even more intimidating. A crescent-shaped dent in the Earth's crust known as the Mariana Trench. Located east of the Philippines and south of Japan, this trench is nearly 11,000 meters deep. That's nearly 36,000 feet. Or, if you prefer the universal measurement of wow, that's too much, it's deeper than Mount Everest is tall. In fact, if you picked up Mount Everest, flipped it upside down, and dropped it into the Mariana Trench, it still wouldn't reach the bottom, which is comforting. Because, apparently the Earth was just like, you know what would be great right here? A bottomless abyss. The deepest part of the Mariana Trench is called the Challenger Deep, named not after your emotional resilience, but a British naval ship that first measured its shocking depth in 1875. Since then, only a handful of human missions have dared to explore it up close. Even today, we know more about the surface of Mars than we do about this trench, which is weird. Considering you could swim there, you know, if your body could survive bone-crushing pressure, zero light, and temperatures just above freezing. But hey, minor details. As we begin our descent, the sunlight quickly fades. By the time we hit just 200 meters, the water around us is dim and dusky. At 1,000 meters, it's pitch black. No flashlight? No problem. There are creatures down here that are flashlights. Welcome to the Midnight Zone. Here life gets weird, and weirder. Think of this area as Earth's deep-sea comedy club. Everything's a bit twisted, mutated, and honestly trying its best. You'll find anglerfish with horrifying smiles, jellyfish that pulse like living neon signs, and creatures that look like they were designed during a power outage. They're bioluminescent, which is a fancy way of saying they glow in the dark and probably have more social life than you. As we sink further, you might be wondering, how can anything live down here? The pressure at the bottom of the trench is over 1,000 times what we feel at sea level. That's like trying to survive with a stack of 50 jumbo jets balanced on your head. Humans would be squished faster than a soda can at a monster truck rally. But the creatures here? They've adapted. They've evolved into gelatinous, squishy masterpieces of biology. Bones? Overrated. Solid muscles? Unnecessary. These animals are the ultimate deep-sea chillers, designed to float in slow motion, glow a little, and snack on whatever drifts by. And what does drift by, you ask? Well, mostly it's what scientists call marine snow, which sounds poetic until you realize it's mostly fish poop, bits of dead animals, and other lovely ocean leftovers. So yeah, down here, a tasty meal might be someone else's footnote. But to the trench dwellers, it's a 5-star buffet. But don't worry, things get even more mysterious. We're now deep into the ocean, way past the sunlight, and honestly, way past what most sane creatures would call home. But here, in this freezing, pitch-black world, life still exists. Not just exists, thrives. In the weirdest, most unexpected ways. The water is cold, around 1 to 4 degrees Celsius. That's like being stuck in a giant bathtub where someone forgot to pay the heating bill, and the pressure, still ridiculous, more than 1,000 times what you're used to. But the creatures here, they don't mind at all. They've been living like this for millions of years. The trench is quiet. No light, no current, no drama. It's the introvert's paradise, and the creatures that live here are built for exactly that kind of life. Let's meet some of them, starting with the amphipods. These tiny shrimp-like scavengers are everywhere down here. They look harmless, just little floating bugs. But don't be fooled. These guys are serious survivors. They eat whatever they can find. Dead fish, jelly, squid parts, maybe even things they're not supposed to eat. Kind of like raccoons, but in water, and with more chill. Then we have the snailfish. These are the deepest living fish ever found. And guess what? They're soft, squishy, and look like someone gave up halfway while designing them. But that's their superpower. No bones to break under pressure, no muscle to waste energy. They just glide around like sleepy underwater ghosts. Now here's something wild. There are sea cucumbers down here too. Yep, the same ones you find in shallow water, except these trench ones are even weirder. Some of them have transparent skin. You can literally see their guts. They're just floating along the sea floor, vacuuming up marine snow like lazy underwater Roombas. And then, the mysterious ones. There are creatures we've only ever seen once, or not at all, just blurry shadows caught on deep-sea cameras. Scientists call them X-creatures. Why? Because they don't know what else to call them. No one's sure how many species live in the trench. Could be dozens. Could be thousands. We've barely scratched the surface. One of the strangest things ever caught on camera was a giant, jellyfish-like creature with long flowing arms and a glowing body. It looked like it came straight out of a sci-fi film. No name, no clear idea what it was, but it was real. And here's a fun thought. Somewhere in the trench, something might be swimming right now that no human has ever seen. Ever. It's kind of exciting, and kind of terrifying. Oh, and let's not forget the microbes. Tiny, invisible organisms that live in the mud at the very bottom. They survive on hydrogen and methane. No sunlight, no oxygen, no problem. These microbes are basically running their own little chemistry labs inside the Earth. Some scientists believe, if we ever find life on another planet, like on Europa or Enceladus, it'll probably look like these trench microbes. Small, simple, tough as nails. But here's the cool part. Despite the darkness and pressure and isolation, these life forms aren't just surviving, they're important. The trench isn't just some underwater graveyard, it's alive, it's doing things, recycling carbon, supporting life, keeping the ocean's balance. We always think of the ocean's surface, waves, dolphins, coral reefs, as the real ocean. But honestly, the deep sea is the real deal. It's where most of the ocean is, it's Earth's largest habitat, and we know almost nothing about it. Even today, the equipment we use to explore the trench is limited. ROVs, deep diving subs, sonar, they help, but they can't show us everything. There's just too much water, too much space, and way too much mystery. Only a few people have ever been down there in person. In 1960, two explorers, Don Walsh and Jacques Piccard, became the first humans to reach the bottom of the Challenger Deep. Their sub, the Trieste, took nearly 5 hours to descend, and when they got there, they couldn't see anything. The water was full of sediment. It was like landing in a snow globe someone just shook. Then, in 2012, filmmaker James Cameron went solo to the bottom in a custom-built submersible. It was a historic dive. He spent a few hours down there, collected samples, and returned safely. His words? It's like a moon landing, but wetter. So, yeah, the trench has been visited. Briefly, carefully, but it's still mostly untouched. A hidden world that exists right here on our planet, but might as well be another one. And the most amazing part, it's still changing. New creatures, new chemicals, new discoveries, all waiting quietly in the dark while we float around up here with our Wi-Fi and coffee. The ocean doesn't need our attention. It just keeps going. So next time you see a calm sea on a sunny beach, just remember, miles below that peaceful blue surface, there's a place where no light shines, no sound travels, and creatures drift through eternal night without ever knowing anything else. So now we're going even deeper into the trench floor itself. The rocks, the mud, and the things buried beneath it, some of which have been untouched for millions of years. Down here, everything feels still. The water is quiet. The pressure is high, the light is gone, and yet something even stranger lies just below the muddy ocean floor. Beneath all the drifting marine snow and soft seabed, there's rock, cold, ancient, silent rock. But it's not empty, not even close. This is where things get even more hidden, where life exists not on the ocean floor but inside it. Deep below the bottom of the Mariana Trench, scientists have found tiny organisms living inside the cracks of rocks. Microbes that don't need sunlight or oxygen. They feed on chemicals like hydrogen and sulfur, pulled straight from the earth itself. Some of these microbes have been trapped down there for millions of years, slowly doing their thing in complete darkness. No rush, no noise, just existing. Imagine living your entire life in a crack inside a rock under 10,000 meters of ocean. No windows, no doors, no sunlight, just darkness, minerals, and silence. And yet, these tiny life forms survive just fine. Honestly, they're more low maintenance than a houseplant. Scientists once thought life needed sunlight. Turns out, life just needs a little energy and a lot of patience. Now if we go even deeper, yes, deeper than the bottom, we reach the boundary between the oceanic crust and the Earth's mantle. This is the part where the seafloor starts to bend and fold. Plates of the Earth's crust slowly push against each other here. One plate sinks under the other in a process called subduction. That's actually how the Mariana Trench was formed. Millions of years ago, the Pacific plate started sliding under the Philippine plate. It still is, even now, very slowly, about the speed your fingernails grow. But over time, it created this massive underwater canyon, a giant scar on the face of the planet. And as that plate keeps sliding down, parts of the ocean floor are carried deep into the earth, where the heat is intense, the pressure is insane, and everything gets cooked and crushed over millions of years. Some of that rock melts, some of it releases gases, and sometimes, surprisingly, life still hangs on. There's evidence that even at those depths, microbes continue to survive, pushed down by geology, but refusing to quit. It's kind of impressive. Life just really doesn't like giving up. Meanwhile, back up near the trench floor, there are tiny ridges and cracks where fluids seep out of the crust. These are called cold seeps. Unlike hot vents found in volcanic areas, cold seeps release chemicals like methane and hydrogen sulfide at low temperatures. To most animals, those chemicals would be deadly, but not here. Here, entire mini ecosystems live off those chemicals, or worms, clams, bacteria, all working together in the dark. It's a world built on chemistry instead of sunlight, a world that smells like rotten eggs and doesn't care what's happening up on the surface. This is the deep sea's version of a peaceful village, everyone doing their job, sharing energy, surviving together, and then, every once in a while, something from above disturbs the peace. It could be a falling whale carcass. Scientists call it a whale fall. When a whale dies near the surface and its body sinks all the way to the trench, it becomes a massive buffet for the deep sea for decades. The first creatures arrive within hours, scavengers that nibble on the soft tissue. Then the bigger eaters show up. Then the bone eaters. Literally. There are worms down here that live inside the bones of whales. They don't have mouths or stomachs. They just release acid and suck out the nutrients. It's a little gross. But it's also the ultimate recycling system. Nothing is wasted. Not even the skeleton. A single whale can feed hundreds of species over decades. It's like dropping a whole city's worth of food into a ghost town. Suddenly life blooms, then slowly it fades again, and the trench returns to silence. This cycle has probably happened thousands of times, quiet, peaceful, mysterious. Life appears, life vanishes, all in the dark. All while the surface world continues on, totally unaware. The more we study the trench, the more we realize how little we understand it. We used to think the deep sea was dead, just mud and pressure. But it's not. It's alive. Not in a loud, colorful way like coral reefs or rainforests, but in a quiet, steady, patient way, like it's been around longer than we can imagine. And it'll still be here long after we're gone. Every bit of movement down here is slow. Every change takes thousands of years. Nothing hurries, nothing shouts. It's like time itself moves differently, and maybe that's why people are drawn to it. Not just scientists or explorers, but all of us. There's something calming about the thought that a whole world exists below us, silent and untouched. Something that doesn't care about deadlines or phone notifications. Something that just is. Right now, as you listen to this, the trench is still there. Still dark, still cold, still holding secrets we haven't even dreamed of yet. And that's kind of beautiful. Some people say space is the final frontier. But let's be honest, we've barely figured out what's under our own oceans, especially down here, where almost nothing is mapped, named, or understood. The Mariana Trench is a part of Earth that feels unfinished, like nature was in the middle of something big, then got distracted for a few billion years. The ground beneath us isn't smooth. It's rough, broken, full of cracks and sharp ridges. It's like walking on an alien planet, if you could walk. But walking's off the table here, because even a submarine has to be careful not to bump into something and get stuck forever. And it's not silent in the way you might think. Sure, there's no human noise, no cars, no voices, but the trench has its own sounds, distant echoes, subtle rumbles, maybe even strange calls from creatures we've never seen. In 2016, scientists recorded a mysterious sound in the trench. It lasted for more than 3 minutes. Nobody really knows what made it. Some say it might be a whale. Others say something else. But whatever it was real, a low, rising call, echoing through the deepest part of the earth. Stuff like that makes you think. How much is still out there? Because most of the trench is unexplored. Not because we don't want to, but because we just can't. The technology is expensive, the dives are risky, and the area is huge. Even when we send machines down, they can only stay for a few hours. The pressure wears them out, the cold drains their batteries, and the darkness makes everything hard to see. It's like the ocean is hiding something, not in a dramatic way, just in a quiet, patient, you're not ready yet kind of way. Still, we keep trying. Why? Because humans are curious. We want to know what's hiding in the shadows. We want to explore, to understand, even if it takes years. And sometimes we find something we never expected, like bacteria that can survive inside rocks, under extreme pressure, bacteria that could help us understand how life might survive on other planets, or enzymes from trench microbes that break down plastic, something that might help clean the mess we've made on the surface, or strange patterns on the seafloor that look like tracks, made by something large moving slowly. But what? No one's sure. No animal we know of should be able to move like that down here. It's not proof of monsters, but it is proof of mystery, and that's good enough. Because sometimes the most interesting part of a place isn't what we know, it's what we don't. There's no sunlight here, but there is movement. No color, but there is life. No time, really, just slow change. Like the ocean is dreaming. It's humbling, in the best way. And up on the surface where everything feels loud and fast and busy, it's comforting to know that somewhere deep below, things are still, waiting, holding stories we haven't read yet. So if you're lying in bed right now, eyes half closed, wondering what else might be drifting through the trench, the answer is, we don't know. And that's the best part. It's getting quieter now. Not that it was ever noisy down here, but as we move deeper into the trench, the water feels thicker, heavier, like it's pressing in from every side. Even sound travels differently here, slower, like it's afraid to disturb whatever's sleeping. And yet, somehow, you don't feel alone. The water around you is filled with things, tiny movements, faint glows, a flash of something in the corner of your vision. Was it real? Was it real, or just your imagination? Welcome to the part of the trench where things start to get strange. There are creatures here that don't look like they belong on Earth. Some of them don't even look like they belong anywhere. And honestly, maybe they don't. Maybe that's why they're here, hiding in the one place no one ever visits. One of the most bizarre is the Dumbo octopus. It's tiny, soft, with little ear-like fins that flap as it swims. It moves slowly, like it's not in a hurry. And why would it be? There's no rush down here. Just water. Forever. The Dumbo octopus lives over 7,000 meters deep, that's farther down than most submarines can even reach. But it doesn't mind. It's perfectly built for this world, small, squishy, and totally at peace in the dark. Then there's the barley fish. This one's a bit weirder. It has a see-through head. Literally, you can look inside its skull and see its brain and glowing green eyes. It looks like something from a science fiction movie, like someone tried to invent a robot fish, then gave up halfway through and left it floating around. But those eyes? They're built for one thing, spotting faint silhouettes in the dark, thousands of meters below the surface. The relief fish float quietly, watching, waiting, almost motionless, like they're thinking very deeply about something. And then there are the ones we can't explain. Strange shapes caught on sonar, long, thin shadows that move too fast, pulsing lights in places where no known life should be. Scientists often chalk it up to glitches or equipment errors. And maybe they're right, but deep down we all kind of hope they're not, because there's something thrilling about the unknown, something comforting about not having all the answers. Think about it. In a world where we've mapped cities, scanned planets, and put robots on Mars, the Mariana Trench still says, "No thanks, try again later." It holds on to its secrets, tightly, silently. But every so often we get a glimpse. In 2014, a strange, jelly-like creature was filmed drifting through the trench. It had no bones, no visible organs, just a translucent body and a flickering light inside. Some called it beautiful, others called it terrifying. Scientists called it unidentified, and then it disappeared. No one's seen it since. It's moments like that which keep explorers going. You dive for hours, see nothing but mud and silence, and then suddenly something floats by that makes you forget how to breathe. That's the magic of the deep. Even in total darkness, something is always moving, always alive. Maybe that's why the trench feels so dreamlike, because down here the usual rules don't apply. Creatures don't need sunlight, they don't need eyes. Some don't even need to eat for months at a time. They just exist, soft, glowing, patient. They float through the water like thoughts drifting through a sleepy mind. And you too are just drifting now, not swimming, not falling, just gently floating through a place that feels more like a memory than a location. You're part of the ocean now, at least for a little while, so let go of the noise above. Let go of time and light and gravity, because down here none of that matters. Only silence, only movement, only mystery, and we're still sinking. You're deeper than almost anything has ever been. The water isn't just cold now, it's still, heavy, like it's watching you. There's no sky, no sun, no sound from above. Just this never-ending stretch of dark water pressing down from miles above and solid earth resting beneath you. But the deeper we go, the more the trench starts to feel alive. Not alive like forests or cities, not with noise or movement, but with presence. There are strange marks on the seafloor, long trails, twisting patterns, grooves in the mud that don't quite match any known creature. It's like something came through here, something big, but no one saw it, and it didn't leave a name. Scientists have found these markings before, long, narrow trenches in the mud, deep and precise. Some stretch for meters, others form odd, repeating loops. No one knows what made them. Maybe a fish with a strange swimming style. Maybe something dragging itself across the bottom, or maybe something else. But it doesn't really matter. Down here you get used to not knowing. Not everything needs an answer. Not every shadow needs a name. Sometimes just knowing that something passed through is enough. It reminds you that the ocean isn't empty. It remembers things, and not just creatures. The Mariana Trench has been collecting secrets for millions of years. Everything that sinks eventually ends up here. Old shipwrecks, dead whales, lost technology, even space debris. Yep, even that. In 2018, scientists found tiny fragments of plastic at the very bottom of the trench. Nearly 11,000 meters down, that's how far our waste has traveled, all the way to a place we can barely reach ourselves. It's a quiet reminder, the deep sea may be silent, but it's not untouched. Still, life finds a way. Microbes live on the plastic. Creatures use it for shelter. Even our garbage, as ugly as it is, becomes part of the deep sea story. But don't feel guilty. Not now. You're here to drift, or to float gently through a place that doesn't rush. to visit the parts of Earth that time forgot. The trench holds layers of history, buried deep in mud, trapped in rock. Every inch of it tells a story. Some are slow and silent, like the steady movement of tectonic plates that formed this trench in the first place. Others are sudden, like underwater landslides that shake the ocean floor and send up clouds of silt big enough to be seen from space. It happens more often than you'd think. The trench shifts, moves, sometimes. It quakes, not loud enough for us to notice on the surface. But down here, the ground groans, the water ripples, creatures vanish into cracks that weren't there a moment ago. And just like that, the silence returns. But a little different than before, the ocean never stays still for long. Even when it looks frozen, it's changing, reshaping itself in tiny invisible ways. And maybe that's what makes the trench feel alive. Not because it has a heart or a brain, but because it has memory, layers and layers of it, pressed into mud and stone. It's seen more than we ever will. Mass extinctions, ancient creatures, entire oceans rising and falling. And through it all, it stayed where it is, deep, dark, and watching. Right now you're floating through that memory, through a place where no light shines, but everything glows. Not with brightness, but with meaning. Because here, even silence says something, and you're learning to listen. You're still drifting. It's hard to tell how far you've come now. There's no frame of reference, no walls, no corners, just endless black stretching in every direction. But even in the blackness, you can feel the space around you growing wider, deeper, like you've slipped into a pocket of the planet where everything slows down. There's something strangely peaceful about not knowing where the ground ends. This isn't the kind of darkness that frightens you. It's the kind that wraps around you like a blanket. Heavy, yes, but comforting, like the ocean is saying, you're safe here, quiet now. And yet, even here, in the deepest dark, you start to notice things. Not colors, not shapes, but flickers. Tiny pulses of blue and green, soft glows in the distance, like the trench is blinking. Bioluminescence. It's one of the only languages spoken down here, not made of words or sounds, but of light. Some creatures flash bright, quick signals, bursts of light to confuse predators or attract prey. Others glow softly, like floating candles drifting on an invisible breeze. There are comb jellies that ripple with rainbow light as they move, like someone dropped oil into the water and gave it just the right spin. And some fish, like the viperfish, have lights along their sides, not for decoration but to hide. In a place with no sunlight, being able to control your own glow is the ultimate disguise. Bioluminescence is one of the most efficient forms of light ever evolved. No heat, no waste, just perfect, clean energy, and it's everywhere down here. You don't see the creatures, not always, but you see their signals, their patterns. You're not alone, not really. You're floating through a silent conversation, one that's been going on for millions of years. No noise, no shouting, just soft pulses. And while it might feel like magic, it's not. It's biology, chemistry, survival, and maybe a little bit of beauty, because down here light isn't something that just happens. It's something that's made on purpose, for a reason. It reminds you that life, no matter how deep it hides, always finds a way to shine. Now you pass something strange, a cloud of glowing particles suspended in place, swirling slowly, almost like smoke, but underwater. At first it looks like dust, but then it moves, not away from you, around you, through you. Tiny plankton glowing with faint blue light, each one flickering just long enough to be noticed. It's like drifting through stars. But these stars are alive. You close your eyes for a moment, and for the first time you realize how quiet your thoughts have become. No buzzing, no rushing, just calm. It's hard to feel afraid when everything around you moves this slowly. Time, down here, is different. Minutes stretch out like hours. There's no sunrise to rush you, no deadline to chase, just the slow, steady rhythm of water and pressure and light, and as you drift deeper, you realize something else. This part of the ocean, this deep trench that so few have seen, it's not empty. It's full of strange beauty, full of quiet motion, full of stories written in light, in silence, in layers of ancient rock. You haven't reached the bottom yet, but maybe you don't need to. Maybe just knowing that it's here, beneath everything, is enough. The trench will still be here tomorrow, still watching, still glowing, still waiting, so let's keep floating. Not to get anywhere, just because this feels right. You're deeper now than 99.9% of the ocean's creatures will ever go. There's no turning back, not because you can't, but because you don't want to. Something about this place pulls you in, not with force, but with curiosity. Quiet, patient curiosity, and maybe a little respect, because down here, everything is under pressure. Literally, the deeper you go, the heavier the ocean becomes. Every meter adds weight, like stacking more and more blankets on top of you until you can barely move. To the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the pressure is over 1,000 times what you feel at sea level. That's 8 tons per square inch. Or imagine 50 jumbo jets stacked on top of you, and you're still expected to smile and float. Humans would collapse instantly under that force. No diving suit could save you. Even most submarines would crumple like a soda can. It's not a place built for us. But somehow, the creatures here survive. Not just survive, they live full lives. They grow, reproduce, eat, glow, all under pressure that would crush steel. So how? Turns out, the trick is being soft. Most deep-sea animals have no solid bones. Their bodies are squishy, flexible, built to bend instead of break. Their cells contain special proteins that keep them stable. Some of them have adaptations we still don't fully understand. They don't fight the pressure, they become part of it. Which feels like a strange kind of wisdom, doesn't it? Back on the surface, we talk a lot about handling pressure, deadlines, responsibilities, expectations. But down here, the answer isn't to resist, it's to adapt, to float, not push, to move slowly, to survive by changing shape and never panicking. It's kind of poetic. Maybe that's what the ocean teaches best. Patience, softness, the art of quiet strength. Even the trench itself, carved by force, formed by collision, has settled into stillness. A permanent scar on the earth that doesn't scream anymore. It just is. And inside it, life goes on. At this depth, energy is precious. Most animals move very little. They eat rarely. Some can survive months without food. They don't waste effort, because everything down here is about balance. Spend too much energy, you starve. Move too fast, you're noticed. Glow too bright, you become a target. So the trench creatures have perfected the art of calm. They drift, they wait, they glow only when they need to. It's like watching a planet breathe. Now and then something shifts, maybe a distant quake, maybe a deep current changing direction. The mud stirs, a light blinks off, a trail disappears, and then stillness again. You're floating through a world built for pressure, but never in a hurry, and in a strange way it's peaceful. You've stopped worrying about the surface now. Up there, everything moves fast. Noise, light, time, demands. But down here, it's different. The rules are softer, slower. You're learning to breathe with the ocean, not above it, with it. And just as you settle into that rhythm, just as you begin to feel like maybe this is what it means to be still, something catches your eye, a shimmer in the distance. Not a creature, not a light, a structure, something unnatural, but will float closer, gently. There's no rush. It's there, just ahead. Faint, quiet, sitting still in the blackness like it's been waiting. A shape that doesn't match the flow of rock or the soft curves of sea creatures. It's too clean, too straight. You move closer. The water thickens, as if even it isn't sure you should be seeing this. But the shape doesn't move. It simply rests there, part of the trench, but also completely out of place. It looks like metal. Old, worn, covered in silt, but metal nonetheless. Sharp edges, faded lines. Maybe it was once a part of something bigger, a piece of a ship, a probe, a satellite. Who knows? Whatever it was, it's not working anymore. There are small creatures living on it now. Worms, crustaceans, maybe even anemones. Nature has taken it in, the same way it takes in everything that sinks. It's hard to imagine how this got here. Maybe it was a deep-sea experiment. Maybe it fell from a lost submersible, or maybe it came from even farther above. something that burned through the atmosphere and landed in the one place no one would find it. Until now, you reach out. Not to touch, just to see it more clearly. The surface is covered in scratches, marks that almost look like writing, but too faded to understand. Could be numbers, could be symbols, or could just be time doing what it does best, erasing things. You wonder how long it's been here. 10 years? 100? It doesn't really matter. Down here, time stretches so far it loses shape. Everything becomes ancient eventually. Even the new, and that's the strange thing. It doesn't feel eerie. It doesn't feel dangerous. It feels forgotten, like a message someone left in a bottle but never expected anyone to read. Maybe it was never meant to be found. Maybe the trench simply decided it was time to show you, and just as silently as it appeared, you let the structure slip behind you again. It becomes a shadow, then a blur, then nothing. And the water closes in once more. You're moving again. Deeper still, the trench doesn't ask questions. It doesn't explain. It just shows you things, a flicker at a time. You drift past strange rock formations now, tall pillars rising from the seafloor like ruined towers. Some lean sideways, others seem to go on forever, disappearing into shadow. They aren't buildings. They aren't anything human, but they carry a kind of weight, like nature built its own monuments down here, just to remind you who's in charge. Soft clouds of sediment roll past your face, kicked up from somewhere unseen. For a second, you lose sight of everything. Just grey dust swirling in the dark. It's like floating through memory, and then it settles. Quiet returns, and with it, the light. Another soft glow. Not a structure this time, a living thing. You catch a glimpse, just a flicker, of long, flowing tendrils. Pale, slow, delicate, like ribbons moving through syrup. The creature doesn't run, doesn't hide. It moves in slow loops, circling something in the distance. It glows gently, like it's dreaming. You've never seen it before. No one has. At least, not outside this place. It doesn't have a name, but it doesn't seem to need one. You watch for a while, not out of fear, just quiet respect. Then it disappears into the black, the way everything does eventually. Here, things don't stay forever. They appear, they show themselves, and they vanish. That's how the trench works. It offers you pieces, glimpses, like fragments of an ancient story written in water, pressure, and time, and your only job is to float through it, to see what it allows, to remember, and then to let go. Everything is slower now, even your thoughts. It's like the trench has reached inside your head and turned the volume down on the entire world. There's no rush here, no urgency, just you, the dark, and the feeling that time itself has stopped to take a nap. And maybe that's exactly what's happening. Because down here, time doesn't tick like it does on the surface. There's no sunrise, no clocks, no reminders to move faster. Nothing ages visibly. Creatures drift for decades. Currents change direction once every few centuries. It's the perfect hiding place. Not just for life, but for time itself. Fossils found in this region suggest some species haven't changed in millions of years, not because they couldn't evolve, but because they didn't need to. Why update the design when the original is still working perfectly? You begin to notice how still everything is. The water doesn't feel like it's moving, but it must be. Slow currents drift around you, carrying tiny particles from one forgotten corner of the trench to another. It's less like swimming and more like floating in a sleeping giant's breath. The deeper you go, the more everything feels preserved, as if the ocean is keeping secrets it doesn't want to lose. Ancient remains lie buried in the mud, not bones necessarily, but traces, imprints, shadows of creatures long gone, their shapes still faintly carved into the seafloor. It's not a graveyard, it's an archive, and the Mariana Trench. It's the library of Earth's lost chapters. Here, you don't just see life, you see echoes of life. The stories that never made it to the surface. The experiments that evolution left behind. Creatures that appeared, floated for a while, and then disappeared like thoughts in a dream. You find yourself wondering what else is down here. Things we've never found. Maybe things we'll never find. Fossils that have yet to fossilize. Microbes that remember an Earth before humans. Maybe even life from beyond Earth, carried in on a meteor that splashed down unnoticed thousands of years ago. A tiny spark, now part of the mud. Quiet, waiting. The idea doesn't feel strange anymore. In fact, it feels likely, because if there were a place where alien life could hide, wouldn't it be here, at the bottom of everything, in silence, unbothered, timeless? And as that thought passes through your mind, you realize something. You haven't thought about home in a while, not about your phone, your inbox, the surface world and all its noise. You're completely in this moment, not lost, just here, present in a place that most people never even think about. And maybe that's what the ocean wants, not your fear or your theories or your explanations, just your attention, just for a little while. So you give it. You breathe slowly, you drift gently, and you listen. Because in this vast, soundless space, there's something being said, not with words, but with weight, with water, with wonder, and you're hearing it now, not through your ears, but through your presence. You're not just visiting the bottom of the world, you're part of it now. At least for tonight, something changes in the water. You don't see it, you feel it, a faint vibration, not violent, not sharp, just a shift, like the ocean has exhaled, and suddenly the dark ahead of you begins to take shape. Not like a fish, not like rock, like walls. You slow down without thinking, not out of fear, but because your mind can't quite believe what it's seeing. There's structure here, not metal this time, not wreckage, stone, columns, broken and worn, rising crookedly from the trench floor, archways, half collapsed, coated in centuries of marine snow and silence, and pathways, or what's left of them, swallowed by layers of sediment. It looks like a ruin, not from today, not from any known civilization, from something else. You don't know if it was ever above water, maybe it was always down here, built by nature in a way that just looks like it had meaning, but it doesn't feel random. Something about it feels intentional, like this was once a city, not in the way we think of cities, with streets and traffic and pizza delivery, but something older, deeper, a gathering place for something that once called the ocean home. You pass beneath a curved arch, half cracked, a small fish darts through it ahead of you. Even the life here seems quieter, gentler, as if it too understands that this isn't just another patch of ocean, this is memory. You float by a row of standing stones, some leaning, some toppled, and they remind you of monuments, like grave markers, or signposts, but there's nothing written on them. No language, no symbols, just shape and shadow, and then just beyond the stones, something glints. You turn. It's not light. It's a surface, smooth, glassy, somehow untouched by the decay around it. A large slab of black stone, resting flat on the seafloor. The marine snow avoids it, literally drifts around it, like even gravity knows it's out of place. You stare, it stares back. There's no pulse, no noise, no sudden jolt of revelation, just stillness. But deep in your chest a thought forms. Someone made this, and then another. But who? The trench doesn't answer. It never does. But you know what you've seen, and in a way that's enough. You float past the slab, careful not to touch it, not out of fear, but respect. This place doesn't want to be solved. It wants to be remembered. And that's what you're doing. By simply being here, by witnessing, you've become part of the story, a tiny ripple in a memory billions of years old. The stone fades behind you. The columns disappear into the dark, and the water, as always, keeps moving, pulling you gently forward, not to escape what you saw, but to show you what's next, because the deeper you go, the more the trench reveals. And you're ready. Now more than ever. There's a stillness in you now, not because you're calm, though you are, but because you've become part of the rhythm. The ocean isn't something you're just exploring anymore. You're synced with it, breathing with it, dreaming with it. And that's when you notice the eyes, not glowing, not menacing, just there, watching, from cracks in the trench wall, from behind soft clouds of sediment, from the undersides of ancient rock shelves, tiny blinking eyes, huge, unblinking ones, some that barely look like eyes at all. They don't move, they don't chase, they just observe, patient and silent, They've seen explorers before. They've seen fish come and go, lights flash, machines blink and hum, but none of that matters to them. They watch, not with hunger, but with the kind of curiosity that doesn't need answers, the kind that says, "You are strange, but you're allowed." And you are. Down here, you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to be strong or fast or smart. You just have to be still. The creatures understand that. There's one now, just above you, a large shadow, slow, graceful, almost invisible. You don't know its name. No one does. It hasn't been catalogued, tagged, studied, and maybe it never will be, because some things in the trench don't want names. They want space. This one glides without motion. Its wings, or are they fins, stretch wide and bend with the current like silk. Its shape shimmers slightly, blending into the black around it. You stare, it doesn't stare back, or maybe it does, but not in a way you recognize. It floats closer, still calm, still silent. Then gently it turns, not afraid, not even particularly interested, just done, and with a subtle flick of its long tail, it vanishes into the dark. The moment doesn't feel grand or cinematic. It just was. And that's the power of the trench. It doesn't perform for you. It includes you. You keep moving, even though you didn't realize you'd started again. The water guides you, or maybe the current does, or maybe some deeper instinct, the kind that says, there's more, and there is, because just ahead, the rock begins to change. Again, not into ruins, not into creatures, but into something even older, the bones of the planet, thick folds of Earth's crust, slabs of ancient rock stacked like books in a forgotten library. This is where the Pacific Plate meets the Philippine Sea Plate, the collision that created the Mariana Trench itself, a wound in the earth that never closed. The temperature drops a little, the water thins, and the silence deepens. You're near the deepest part now. Challenger, deep, the lowest known point on Earth, 11,000 meters down, 7 miles below sea level. It's not marked by anything grand, no signpost, no glowing gate, just more darkness, more stillness, and the faintest sound of water pressing against rock, as if the earth is quietly remembering how it was made. You've arrived. But there's nothing here to greet you, because this place doesn't need to say anything. Its existence is enough. So you float and let the silence wrap around you, and the creatures watch, and the trench holds you. You've reached it, the bottom, the place explorers dream of and machines whisper about. Challenger, deep, Earth's most secret corner. Not just the deepest point of the ocean, but the deepest known point on the entire planet. It doesn't look like much. There's no throne, no crown, no dramatic reveal, just quiet mud. Fine, soft, untouched, and silence, so complete it hums. But this is the true heart of the ocean. More people have walked on the moon than have been here. Let that sink in. We've launched probes to Mars, sent rovers to distant planets. But this place, right here on our own world, has remained largely untouched, because it's not just hard to reach, it's not interested in being reached. This is not a place for conquest. It's a place for witnessing, and so you float, weightless above the seafloor. The sediment here is so soft that even a whisper would send up a cloud, but there are no whispers, only breath, only the slow rhythm of your heartbeat, and the sea pressing around you like a memory. You're not alone, even now. Tiny, translucent creatures wiggle gently in the mud. Strange isopods scuttle silently. Microbes, millions of them, live in the soil, feeding on chemical traces so faint they'd be useless to anything else. To you, it seems lifeless. To them, it's paradise. And then, something strange. A faint shimmer in the seafloor, like heat, like motion. But there's no vent, no light, no sign of where it's coming from, just a gentle ripple, and then nothing. Maybe a tiny quake, maybe a trick of the trench, maybe something else. Whatever it was, it's gone now, swallowed again by the darkness that covers everything here like a story nobody finishes. And that's the truth of Challenger Deep. It doesn't give you answers, it offers perspective. That for all our satellites, our telescopes, our science and our searching, there are still places we don't understand. Still corners of Earth that belong to mystery, still depths where the rules bend. And somehow, in that silence, you hear more than you ever have before. You hear time, you hear patience, you hear the weight of the planet itself, resting quietly, never asking to be noticed. And then, a small flash above you, just for a moment, a soft glow, like a creature lighting its way back upward, the ocean reminding you, gently, that you can rise now. You've seen what you came for, and the trench, it never needed to impress you, it just needed you to see it. Not with your eyes, but with stillness. And now that you have, the journey upward begins. You begin your ascent. But this isn't a climb. There's no urgency, no rush, just a slow drift upward, like the ocean is lifting you in its palm, gently returning you from where you came. The pressure eases, bit by bit. You don't feel lighter, exactly, just less held, as if the trench is releasing you with care, not wanting to let go too fast. Like it's saying, come back someday if you remember how. And you will, because something about this place doesn't fade. The silence still echoes in your chest. The shapes, those pillars, those ruins, that quiet creature with its glowing ribbons, they've imprinted themselves somewhere in your mind, like soft fingerprints on glass. Above you, the darkness is still thick, but you can sense change. The water's movement is different now, not the same slow, timeless flow from before. There's a rhythm returning, a pulse, like the ocean is breathing again, and with each meter more life appears. Not that it was missing before, it was just hidden. But now you pass by familiar creatures, lanternfish, deep-sea shrimp, a squid drifting like a pale balloon, trailing arms behind it like forgotten threads. They don't react to you, they've seen travelers. Some stay, most don't. And still, the ocean gives them space and gives you a moment to think, to breathe. Maybe a trick of the trench. Maybe something else. Whatever it was, it's gone now. Swallowed again by the darkness that covers everything here like a story nobody finishes. And that's the truth of Challenger Deep. It doesn't give you answers. It offers perspective. That for all our satellites, our telescopes, our science and our searching, there are still places we don't understand. Still corners of Earth that belong to mystery. Still depths where the rules bend. And somehow, in that silence, you hear more than you ever have before. You hear time. You hear patience. You hear the weight of the planet itself, resting quietly, never asking to be noticed. And then, a small flash above you, just for a moment, a soft glow, like a creature lighting its way back upward, the ocean reminding you, gently, that you can rise now. You've seen what you came for, and the trench, it never needed to impress you, it just needed you to see it. Not with your eyes, but with stillness. And now that you have, the journey upward begins. You begin your ascent. But this isn't a climb. There's no urgency, no rush, just a slow drift upward, like the ocean is lifting you in its palm, gently returning you from where you came. The pressure eases, bit by bit. You don't feel lighter, exactly, just less held, as if the trench is releasing you with care, not wanting to let go too fast. Like it's saying, come back someday if you remember how. And you will, because something about this place doesn't fade. The silence still echoes in your chest. The shapes, those pillars, those ruins, that quiet creature with its glowing ribbons, they've imprinted themselves somewhere in your mind, like soft fingerprints on glass. Above you, the darkness is still thick, but you can sense change. The water's movement is different now, not the same slow, timeless flow from before. There's a rhythm returning, a pulse, like the ocean is breathing again, and with each meter more life appears. Not that it was missing before, it was just hidden. But now you pass by familiar creatures, lanternfish, deep-sea shrimp, a squid drifting like a pale balloon, trailing arms behind it like forgotten threads. They don't react to you, they've seen travelers. Some stay, most don't. And still, the ocean gives them space and gives you a moment to think, to breathe, to feel the weight of where you've been. It wasn't just a dive, it was a meeting between you and something ancient, something patient, something that doesn't care about your schedule or your doubts or your devices. It just is. And for a while, so were you. You remember the structures, those not quite ruins on the trench floor. You remember the shimmer in the mud, that ripple that had no source. You remember the fish that watched but didn't flee. And most of all, you remember the stillness. How quiet it was. Not empty, not cold, just present. Up ahead, the darkness thins. Not much, but enough to hint that you're getting closer to the sunlight zone, that narrow slice of the ocean where light still remembers how to dance. You feel something shift in your chest. Not pressure, not fear, just longing for the calm, for the weight of that silence. But you keep rising, because the ocean doesn't trap you. It lets you go. Like a dream you almost remember even after you wake, you pass the glow of a comb jelly pulsing with soft rainbow ripples. A farewell, then the faint echo of a distant whale call, barely audible, rising from somewhere far above. A reminder. The ocean is vast. You've only seen a piece. But what a piece it was, so you float upward, no longer just a diver, but a witness. Someone who's heard the planet breathe, and as the blue begins to return, soft, faded, comforting, you don't feel like you've left something behind. You feel like you're carrying something with you. Something quiet, something deep, something true, and that is enough. The blue thickens. It doesn't feel like rising through water anymore. It feels like rising through memory. Layer by layer, the pressure lifts, the darkness fades, and that overwhelming hush of the trench begins to loosen its grip. Above you, there's a glow. Not artificial, not from a creature. Sunlight, just the faintest trace of it, scattering through the upper ocean like dust in an old attic. It doesn't reach far, but it doesn't need to. You feel it before you see it, a gentle warmth brushing your skin. The kind of warmth you forgot existed. The world is returning. You break through the last layer of darkness with a kind of reverence, like waking up after a long, dreamless sleep. The water becomes clearer. The silence softens into gentle sounds, the faint swish of currents, the far-off songs of whales, the soft static of life returning to its rhythm, and then you breach. The surface welcomes you with a sigh, air, sky, clouds lazily drifting above you, like they've been waiting. Waves roll quietly around you, not crashing, not urgent, just steady, like a heartbeat. Like the ocean isn't done holding you yet. You lie there for a moment, floating, not speaking, not moving, just listening. You can hear the world again, distant, muffled, but there. But something's different now. It's not louder, you're quieter, because part of you is still 7 miles down. Part of you is still wrapped in that black silence, still glowing with bioluminescence, still drifting through ruins and shadows and strange, soft creatures with no names. You carry them with you now. Every trench has a story. You don't need to write it down. You are the story. You, who went down to the bottom of the world, not to conquer, but to listen, not to film, but to feel, not to survive it, but to understand it. And maybe, now that you've surfaced, you'll walk a little slower, breathe a little deeper, and carry that silence with you like a secret the planet told you in the dark. Because while everyone else is staring at stars, you'll remember, there are galaxies here too, in the water, in the deep, where the world folds inward and forgets to shout. And you, dear diver, you listened. Welcome home. You're still floating. Not in the water anymore, at least not fully, but in your mind, in your chest. That weightless drift hasn't stopped. You feel suspended between worlds, not quite here, not quite gone. And maybe that's okay, because journeys like this one don't really end. You can return to the surface, open your eyes, hear the birds, the cars, the familiar hum of life, but the deep, it stays with you. Not in the form of facts or trivia, not as data points or diving records. It stays as a feeling, one that's hard to name but impossible to forget. It's the feeling of realizing how vast the planet really is and how small we really are. But not in a sad way, in a freeing way. Because when you've floated through black water and silence older than civilization, you begin to understand something. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to rush. You don't even have to be sure. You just have to be curious. That's what brought you down there in the first place. Not a map, not a mission, but a question. What happens at the bottom? And the answer wasn't a monster. It wasn't gold. It wasn't aliens, though. Who knows? Maybe you passed one. The answer was stillness. The kind of stillness that shifts something in you. The kind that asks you to sit with wonder, not solve it. The kind that says, Shay, it's okay not to know. Now, as you lie back and watch the clouds drift above the ocean, you feel lighter. Not because the journey wasn't heavy, it was, but because you left the right things behind. Doubt, rush, noise. You let them sink. And what rose with you instead was patience, clarity, and maybe a tiny part of the ocean itself, tucked somewhere quiet inside you, glowing like a lanternfish in the dark. You'll walk through the world differently now. Rest your hand on the suit's shoulder. The fabric gives slightly. Pressure has stiffened it, but not enough to erase the humanity beneath. A name tag, half erased. Only a few letters remain, enough to guess. This wasn't just anyone. This was someone like you, curious, quiet. Sent here to listen to the deep, and maybe they heard too much. You stare into the visor again, and for the faintest moment, maybe it's the reflection, you see your own eyes staring back. You'll hear the hum of a refrigerator, and remember the hum of trench silence. You'll see city lights, and think of bioluminescent creatures dancing in the deep. You'll hear someone say impossible, and smile quietly, because you've been to a place most people never will. A place deeper than fear, softer than sleep, stronger than steel, and it welcomed you with silence and pressure and strange glowing life. This wasn't just a story, it was a conversation between you and the planet, and though it spoke without words, you heard it clearly. You're on land now, shoes on, ground steady. The world feels sharper again, brighter, louder, faster, but it all seems distant, like you're seeing it through a layer of water that hasn't quite evaporated. People pass you, talking, laughing, typing on screens. The city buzzes. But in your ears, there's still that gentle hum, but like a deep-sea diver who came back with something far more valuable than photographs. Perspective. You realize something as you sip your coffee, or stand in line, or stare at the ceiling before sleep. You realize the deepest parts of the ocean aren't filled with monsters. They're filled with silence, and that silence taught you more than most books ever could. It taught you that not every mystery needs solving, that some places are better felt than explained, that life, even in the harshest places, always finds a way to glow. And now, when the world gets loud, when the headlines shout, when the day rushes by, when your mind spins like a cyclone, you have a place to return to, a place beneath all of that, a place of pressure and peace, of stillness and strange beauty, a trench in your memory 7 miles deep. You don't need a submarine to get back there, just a quiet moment, just a deep breath, just a question. And then, like before, you drift downward softly into the dark, and once again, it welcomes you. You might think the trench has forgotten you, that once you surfaced, once your ears popped and your heartbeat returned to its surface rhythm, the deep would erase you. Swallow your footprints like it does everything else, but the ocean doesn't forget. It holds everything, every whisper, every ripple, every drift of thought that passed through your mind while you floated in its arms. It remembers the shape of you, the way your presence stirred the water just a little, the way your curiosity stretched into the dark like a reaching hand. It doesn't need your name, it remembers your stillness. And maybe, just maybe, somewhere, 7 miles beneath the surface, something is still watching, not out of suspicion, but with quiet affection. The kind that only ancient things can offer, because to the trench, you're not a disruption. You're a guest, one who stayed long enough to listen, one who didn't demand answers, one who understood that silence is its own kind of language. So when you lie in bed tonight, eyes closed, breath slowing, don't be surprised if the dark behind your eyelids feels deeper than usual, if your pillow feels like water, if your dreams move slower, gentler, more fluid. That's not just sleep. That's memory of somewhere vast and quiet and beautifully strange. And even though the world may think you've left it, the trench still holds you, not physically, but in the way it holds everything, softly, without effort, without end. And when you need it again, when life feels too loud, too fast, too sharp, you'll know exactly how to return. You won't need maps or machines, just stillness and the willingness to drift. Because the ocean remembers you, and when you close your eyes, you remember it too. Somewhere in your mind you open a map, not one with cities and borders, no highways or hotels, but something quieter, a mental map. One drawn in currents and pressure, in shadows and silence, and you realize the Mariana Trench doesn't fit on any of it. Because how do you chart a place that doesn't want to be found? You can draw a line and label it, Challenger Deep. You can measure the miles, mark the coordinates, even plant a little flag in the name of discovery, but none of that captures what you saw. You didn't just visit a location, you moved through something alive, a place that reshapes itself every moment, not in motion but in meaning, and it reshaped you too. You trace back through your journey, not with your finger, but your breath. You remember each depth not by numbers, but by feeling, the moment you passed the glowing jellies. The place with the arch of ruins that made your chest ache with wonder. The long shadow that never moved but made your heart beat slower. You remember them not as data, but as memory. And maybe that's the real map. Not lines but layers, not labels but moments. And this map, it lives in you now. Folded between your ribs, tucked just behind your quietest thoughts. Waiting, because the trench may not follow your maps, but you've become part of its, and it remembers. Just like you do, there's a ridge near the trench wall. You wouldn't have noticed it if you weren't drifting so slowly. It doesn't call attention to itself. It just is. A slope of smooth stone, slanting gently into the darkness, like a wave that never curled. You angle your light toward it. Nothing glints, nothing moves, but your body leans, almost instinctively, toward that shape, like it's familiar, not from memory, from something older than that. Somewhere deeper, you drift closer. The stone changes subtly, not in color, it stays a muted charcoal, but in texture. The smoothness gives way to something more granular, then more precise. You slow down, blink, adjust your position. There are patterns, not markings, not writing, just grooves, arcs, intersections that feel too clean to be natural, erosion maybe, tectonic stress. But your gut disagrees. It doesn't look broken, it looks drawn. Lines cut gently across the stone's surface, circular, looping, always just enough to suggest something meaningful without saying it out loud, like the start of a sentence whispered underwater. You run your light along the surface. The trench offers no explanation, it never does. But the air, if you can even call it that, feels different here. Heavier, not in weight, but in history. Like the space itself is holding its breath. Then, something vibrates, not loud, not jarring, just a faint hum, like a tuning fork pressed gently behind your ear. You freeze, wait, and there it is again. Soft, even rhythmic. You turn in a circle, nothing, no machines, no movement, just that low vibration as if the stone itself were remembering a sound it can't quite repeat. You reach out and press your hand against the wall. It's cold, the kind of cold that doesn't just touch skin but seeps into your bones. But it's not solid. It feels solid. But behind the touch, there's something else. A hollowness. Not empty, but enclosed. Like a chamber behind a wall. A room sealed tight. Your fingers tremble slightly. You press your helmet forward, placing the side of it gently against the stone, listening. No sound. Only that vibration. You can feel it now, not just on your skin but in your ribs, in your spine, a steady thrum, like a pulse. The trench doesn't usually do this. It usually ignores you, watches you quietly. But this part, this place, it reacts. Or maybe it just remembers. You whisper without meaning to. A soft question. Is someone there? There's no answer, but the vibration deepens, not louder, just more present. Your mind races. Could this be a geological anomaly, a deep pressure effect, a trick of your own body adapting to the depth? Maybe, or maybe it's something else. You try to record the vibration, click on your device, press it to the stone. Later, when you play it back, it will be static. Nothing saved, as if the trench only speaks in moments, not recordings. You stand there for a long time. Time stretches differently here. There are no clocks, no rising sun. Only pressure and patience. You imagine something behind the stone, a space, a vault, a room full of thoughts that never learned how to speak. You press your ear to the rock again. This time you feel something more. Not words, not images, just a sensation, a kind of emotional heat, longing, sadness. The way an empty home might feel after someone leaves for the last time. You're not supposed to understand. The trench never promised clarity, it offers presence. And in this moment you are fully here, not drifting, not thinking, just listening. The rhythm continues. Pulse, pause, and slowly in the silence between you feel like you're part of the pattern, like your breath is syncing with something ancient, not alive, but aware, not watching you, but remembering you, as if long ago, someone or something stood in the same spot, pressed their hand to this same wall, and felt this same rhythm. You wonder, are you the first to discover this, or the first to return? You'll never know, but something deep in your chest tightens, not in fear, in reverence. You take a slow breath, then another. You feel your heart beat slow, until it almost matches the pulse from the stone, and in that moment, the difference between you and the trench disappears. There is no you, know it, only now, only this. Eventually you pull away, the vibration doesn't chase you, it doesn't plead, it simply fades, like it was never meant to last, like the stone only opens for those who are still enough to notice. As you drift backward, the patterns vanish into shadow, the wall returns to silence. The ocean forgets its shape again, but you don't. You look back once more, not hoping for a sign, just to remember the way it made you feel, not scared, not amazed, just noticed. And for the rest of your life, no matter where you float, there will be a small part of you that knows somewhere behind a silent stone wall, the deep remembers you too. You've never quite felt alone in the trench. Not really, even when the darkness folds around you like thick velvet. Even when the silence is so complete, you can hear your own pulse echoing inside your helmet. There's something, still nothing. But the feeling remains, like eyes blinking somewhere far off, behind layers of salt and time. You exhale slowly and follow the trench wall as it curves gently left, a natural bend smoothed by pressure and patience. Beyond it, the floor sinks just slightly, like the lip of a bowl, and that's where you see it. At first it's just a distortion, a shimmer, a ripple in the water that has no cause, like someone breathed gently from the other side of the void. You blink. Look again. There it is. A shape, immense, still, partially wrapped in darkness, as if the trench itself is unsure whether to reveal it. It doesn't move, doesn't shimmer, doesn't even blink. It simply exists, not hiding, just waiting. You hover. There's no protocol for this. No textbook chapter that explains what to do when you find yourself face to face with something the ocean never admitted existed. Your heart beats slower, strangely enough. Not from calm, but from respect. This thing, whatever it is, isn't just alive. It's ancient, older than whales, older than fish, older maybe than vertebrates. Not a predator, not prey, a witness, a keeper of the trench. You can't see details, no glowing eyes, no flickering limbs, just a silhouette, wide and still, like a mountain that forgot it was rock and decided to breathe instead. And then something changes. Not the creature, the space between you, a hum, low, round, tonal, as if the ocean just cleared its throat. It doesn't come from the thing, it doesn't come from you, it just happens. And with it, the water around you vibrates gently, not violently but with purpose. Like music trying to find its key, you raise your hand, not to wave, but to feel. The vibration touches your glove, your arm, your ribs. It hums inside your lungs without sound, and suddenly, you're somewhere else. Not physically, but your mind shifts. You don't see light. You see memory. A cave, not a rocky one. Smooth, like melted obsidian. Tunnels stretching in impossible directions. A pulse, like a heart. And floating inside, something like the creature before you, or its memory, or its ancestor. You don't see all of this. You feel it, like the creature is letting you skim the surface of a thought it's had for eons. And that's when you realize, it isn't just watching you. It chose to let you feel it. It is remembering you. just as it's letting you remember it. And somewhere deeper still, beneath words or ideas, you know this being has watched countless lives pass. Fleeting fish, slow tectonic shifts, falling bones from the surface world. It watched as metal vessels visited once or twice, flashing and bubbling, leaving nothing but questions. But it never reached out. Not until now, you. The dreamer who drifted still enough to notice. The diver who listened. The hum deepens. Not louder, just closer. And then, the silhouette shifts. Not toward you, not away, but into itself. Curling slightly, folding in dimensions you didn't realize were there. It condenses into something tighter, darker. And for just a second, your light catches a surface. Smooth, mirror-like skin reflecting nothing. No light, no thought, just the suggestion of infinity. And then, it's gone. No swirl, no splash, just gone. The shimmer dissolves into flat water. The hum fades like a heartbeat slipping into silence. You're alone again. Except you're not, because your body is still humming. Your breath still sinks to a rhythm you no longer hear. Your mind still holds the faint echo of that memory. It doesn't explain anything. It doesn't answer any questions. But you weren't given facts. You were given presence. And that somehow is more. You turn slowly in the water. There's nothing behind you, nothing ahead, just the trench, breathing slowly, pretending once again to be still. You check your equipment. Everything's fine. You look back at the space where the creature was, not hoping to see it again, but simply acknowledging it, like you would nod to someone you passed in a dream. Because you'll remember this, not as a scene, not as a story, but as a sensation. A time you met something the ocean trusted you with. And even if no one ever believes it, even if there's no photo, no proof, the trench remembers. And so do you. You're floating lower now, further than you planned. But somehow it doesn't feel wrong. The water has a rhythm here, like it's breathing, and you're breathing with it. Then, without warning, the water around you shifts. Not a surge, not a wave, just a circular, soft current that doesn't push you away. It pulls you in, not forcefully, more like an invitation. You pause. There's a split in the trench wall. Not a crack, not a cave, just a narrow slit, barely visible, hidden behind drifting clouds of silt and shadow. You wouldn't have noticed it if you weren't going so slow. Maybe that's the point. The current swirls around it, gentle and hypnotic. It doesn't roar or bubble, it whispers. Like a trail of breath curling through a keyhole, you move toward it, not because you want to, because you have to. The entrance is barely wider than your body. You tilt sideways to fit through, light brushing against the walls. They're smooth, strangely smooth, not jagged rock or carved coral, smooth like stone that's been shaped with purpose. The current continues inside, flowing ahead of you, not dragging but guiding. It loops back gently, like a hand reaching back to take yours. The corridor twists, first left, then right, then down. It doesn't feel natural, it feels designed. You shine your light along the wall. Lines, faint, almost invisible. Grooves cut into the surface, evenly spaced, forming no symbols, no language you know. But still, they feel like communication, like someone tried to say something without using words. You keep moving, the pressure increases, but it feels different here, not heavier, but denser, like you're swimming into the memory of something instead of a place. The current curls tighter, spiraling like a path towards something forgotten. The corridor opens, or not much, just enough. You enter a dome. It rises slowly, curved like the inside of a seashell. The grooves continue here too, no longer straight, now spiraling, intersecting in a pattern so intricate it makes your eyes ache. Your light sweeps across the floor, a basin, perfectly round, shallow, nothing inside. But the current leads directly into it and stops, just vanishes into the stone, like it's draining into a deeper layer of the earth. You hover over it, unsure what to do. It's just stone. But the air, or rather the water, feels charged, like standing inside a paused thought. You reach out, fingertip grazing the edge of the basin, and just for a moment, the current returns. But not in the water, inside you, like something moved through your chest. Not painful, just echoing. Memories that aren't yours flicker at the edge of your awareness. A great void, stone towers, creatures shaped like folded shadows, eyes that don't blink but simply are, and then it's gone. The water calms, your heart slows, your body drifts back, and in that moment of stillness you realize something. This corridor wasn't made for you, but it recognized you. You weren't invited, you were allowed. You shine your light one last time across the walls. The grooves seem different now, not decorations, not instructions, but records. As if the trench has been writing its history into the stone for eons, waiting for someone quiet enough to notice. You turn slowly. The corridor behind you is dark but welcoming. You head back, and as you float through the winding path, the current follows you again, curling around your ankles, brushing your shoulders, like a dog walking beside its owner. You smile, just slightly, not because anything makes sense, but because somehow the mystery itself feels comforting, like the ocean doesn't want to be solved. Just listen to. You've been diving for a long time now, but time here doesn't behave. Your instruments say it's been 20 minutes since you entered the corridor, but your body, it feels like hours, maybe days. The ocean doesn't care about clocks, it moves on memory. You rise gently back into the open trench, lights flickering softly against walls that seem closer now, not because they are, but because the darkness has gotten thicker, or maybe just quieter. And then you hear it. No, you don't hear it, not like a noise in your ears. It's the absence of noise, a silence so dense it makes your chest feel hollow, the kind of silence that isn't empty, it's waiting. You stop moving, let your arms fall slack. The water doesn't move around you anymore. The current from the corridor is gone. The trench is holding its breath. Your light flickers, then steadies, then it happens. Not a sound, not a voice, just a vibration. So faint it almost feels imagined, like the tremble of a plucked string. You check your comms, all clear. No signal, no interference, yet the vibration continues. You reach out instinctively, nothing touches you. But in the same way you feel music in your bones, you know something's calling, not to you, just out, into the deep. Like a beacon without coordinates, you drift toward it, slowly. Not because you know where it's coming from. You don't, but because your body starts responding before your mind agrees. Something beneath you stirs, not a creature, not the trench, the layer below the trench, a pressure wave, too soft for sonar, too deep for instruments, but it moves. Your light drops and illuminates a small rise in the seafloor, not tall enough to be a hill, not shaped enough to be anything man-made, just a subtle hump in the sand. You stare at it, then the vibration grows stronger, only slightly, just enough to make your teeth tingle. You move closer, your gloved hand brushes the rise. It's stone but warmer than the water around it. As you press down, gently, curiously, the vibration stops. Dead silence. Real silence. No hum, no pulse. Even the water feels still. You wait. 1 second, 2. Then the ground beneath your fingers trembles. The rise shifts. Just a millimeter, maybe less. But you feel it in your bones, and then a thin crack splits open along its surface. It's not dramatic. It doesn't burst or glow. It just opens, and from within, no light escapes. But the silence changes. It becomes alive. There's a frequency there now, not audible but emotional. You don't hear a sound. You feel a message. No words, just one clear sensation. You're not the first. You freeze. Not from fear, from realization, whatever is inside this trench. Whatever remembers, whatever watches, it knows others have come, before you, before machines. Maybe even before maps. You step back, carefully. The crack closes. The vibration fades. The water resets. The trench forgets, or pretends to. You rise, slowly, back into the drift. No lights behind you, no signs of what happened, just the echo in your chest. That strange, soundless message, still resting inside your breath. You're not the first, and you might not be the last. But for now, in this moment, you were heard, and that matters more than any explanation. You're drifting sideways now, carried by a current so gentle it almost feels like breath. Not your own, something else, something massive, quiet. Like the trench itself is asleep, exhaling in slow motion. Your lights catch something pale in the distance. Just a shimmer buried under silt and sediment. You approach, slowly. At first, it looks like nothing, just another boulder. Maybe coral that died 1,000 years ago. But then your light catches a curve, a rib. No, not a bone. Something older, fossilized. You brush some of the silt aside, and a shape begins to emerge. A spiral. No, wait, not a spiral. A coil, layered, smooth, and huge. At least 10 meters across. A shape you've never seen in any biology book. Too symmetrical for rock. Too preserved for chance. You scan it. No reading. No match. Just silence. You float back, tilting your head, trying to take in the whole form, and then it moves. Just once. Barely. But enough. You blink. No, must have imagined it. You move closer. It's still, dead still. But your instincts say otherwise. Your hand hovers over the surface, and you swear, just for a breath, that the stone beneath your glove inhales like a lung that forgot it wasn't alive anymore. Your own chest tightens, not from fear, from awe. This thing, whatever it is, isn't just ancient. It's aware, not conscious like you, not even like an animal, more like an echo that's still listening. You notice markings along its surface, not carvings, not scratches, patterns, natural, but intentional, like fingerprints of time pressed into skin that used to move. And suddenly your mind fills with an image, uninvited, vivid, clear. This creature long ago gliding through waters that no longer exist. Waters above the crust, above even the tectonic plates that hold the trench now. A world before this world, and this wasn't the only one. There were more, whole colonies of them, moving together in quiet, slow patterns, talking without sound, breathing in rhythms deeper than music. Then silence, a shift, a break. Something came, not a predator, a change, and everything went still, except this one, this fossil, this survivor. Not alive, not dead, somewhere between. And now, you're here, touching what remains of an era even the ocean forgot. You don't speak. You can't. It feels wrong to break the moment, like whispering in a cathedral made of bone. So you float back, let your light dim. The shape fades into the dark again, still, silent. But maybe not sleeping, just waiting. The current wraps around you once more, pulling you away gently, like the trench itself knows you've seen enough. For now, and as you drift, you carry the shape with you. Not physically, but somewhere deeper. A question that doesn't need an answer, just memory. A fossil that might still be breathing. You thought you'd seen everything strange the trench had to offer. You were wrong. The current drifts you toward a flat plain, smoother than the rest of the trench floor. No ridges, no rocks, just an endless stretch of soft, pale silt, like untouched snow on the ocean's bottom. At first you don't even notice it. It blends in too well. But then your light hits something sharp. Not jagged, not broken, sharp like edges. You tilt closer. It's glass. No, not glass exactly, but a surface that shines like it, buried under barely a few centimeters of sand. You kneel slowly, brushing the silt aside with your gloved hand. A shape appears. Rectangular. Perfect. Not a rock. Not coral. A window. But a window to what? You clear more of it. The pane stretches out beneath the sand. Wide, flat, and completely alien to everything around it. The trench has been full of organic secrets. But this was made by something that builds. Something that sees. You lean closer. At first, there's only blackness beneath it, a void that reflects your face back at you like a mirror made of night. But then, something moves. Not in the glass. Beneath it, you flinch, pulling back, heart pounding, breath catching in your throat. Did you just see? No, impossible. But you look again, and there it is. A light, dim, pulsing softly. Like a heartbeat, like a signal. You place your hand on the surface. It's cold, much colder than the surrounding water. The heartbeat fades, then returns. This time slower, as if matching your own. You stare, breathless, not in fear, in recognition. Something under the sand, under this trench is alive, or functioning, or both, and it sees you. You run your fingers across the surface. It hums under your palm, the same frequency you felt back in the corridor, but deeper, older. You remember the creature that watched, the fossil that breathed, the whisper that said, "You're not the first." Now the trench is showing you why. Someone or something built this, long before your kind ever learned to swim. And now it waits. Maybe not for rescue, maybe not even for awakening, maybe it just waits to be acknowledged. You glance around. The ocean is silent again. Not a creature in sight, not even the faint glow of bioluminescence. Just you, and the glass, and the feeling that if you stay still just a moment longer, something will speak back. But it doesn't. It stays silent. And maybe that's its way of speaking. Not every message needs a voice. Sometimes it's enough to know something is there, so you rise slowly, brush the remaining silt gently back over the pane, like closing the lid of something too sacred to leave exposed. Not to hide it, but to respect it. And then, like the current was waiting for your permission, it returns, gently pulling you away, back into the open water. You look back one last time. The sand is smooth again, undisturbed, as if none of it ever happened. But you know better. You didn't just find glass. You found a window, and whatever's behind it saw you too. The water feels colder now, not because of depth, because of what you've seen. You drift slowly along the trench's floor again, quiet, small, careful. The current barely touches you anymore, like even the ocean is whispering now. You don't speak, you don't even think in words. You just float. And then, scattered like fallen leaves in a place with no trees, you see them, bones, dozens, hundreds, some small, some massive, all perfectly preserved. You pause, hover. There's no structure, no pattern. They're not buried, not part of a fossil bed. Just resting, like each one chose this place as their final breath. They aren't human. They aren't even animal in the way you understand animals. Some are long and curved like blades of ivory. Others are thin and spiraled, delicate like shells made of glass. A few are so large, your mind hesitates to believe they belonged to anything living, and yet they feel sacred. Not eerie, not haunted. Sacred. You descend closer, your light gliding across the bones. No algae, no growth, just bone and time. Your glove brushes one, carefully, as if touching a sleeping memory. It's warm. No, not warm exactly, but not cold, and it sends something up your arm. Not pain, just a flicker. A feeling. Suddenly your mind floods with images, not visions, just impressions. Vast oceans, calmer than now, skies lit with different stars. And creatures, strange, graceful, immense, moving through the water like shadows dancing through wind. They sang, not with mouths, with their bodies, their movement, their light. They filled the ocean with stories. And then, silence. Something shifted. The water changed, and those stories were buried. All that's left are these bones, resting quietly, like memory anchors at the bottom of time. You lift your hand from the bone. Slowly, the impression fades, but not completely. It lingers in your fingertips, your heartbeat, like the ocean handed you a secret. It didn't trust with anyone else, and now you know something others don't. Not because you discovered it, but because you listened. You float over the rest of the bone field, gentle, reverent. One set lies curled, like something once slept there forever. Another is cracked, not broken from impact, but gently split down the middle, as if something once opened it. Like a book, the trench doesn't explain, it just shows, and it trusts you to feel the rest. You hover at the edge of the field. Look back. All the bones are still, but somehow, you know, they remember, not just their lives, but your presence, your stillness, your respect. And that down here means something. You move on, not to leave them behind, but to carry them forward, because the stories they told with their bones now belong to you too. You've drifted beyond the bone field now, but something from it still clings to you, not physically, energetically. Like an old song stuck somewhere between your lungs and your memory. The trench seems quieter now, not the usual silence. A focused silence, like the ocean is watching. You descend a little more, light steady, breath soft, hands relaxed. Then, just ahead, something blocks the path. A shape, still, massive. Not stone, not machine, not wreckage. Living, or something that used to be. You stop, float perfectly still. It doesn't move, doesn't glow, doesn't breathe, and yet you feel it before your eyes, fully accept it. A creature, curled, not dead, just waiting, not sleeping, just paused. Just waiting, not sleeping, just. Its surface is smooth, almost polished. No gills, no fins, no visible features, but you can feel it, pulsing deep within, like a mountain that remembers being a storm. Your light barely touches its skin. It swallows illumination like it's used to darkness. Like light is a foreign language here, and this creature refuses to translate. You drift a little closer, still no movement, but every instinct in your body hums like a warning. Not danger, just gravity. The weight of something that knows. You circle slowly around it. No eyes, no face. But somehow it's looking right at you, not tracking, not reacting, just aware. You pause at its side, there, carved into the flesh. Not by damage, but by time, along deep grooves, not injuries. Marks, worn like memories. You reach out, hesitant, hand hovering just above its surface, and then it happens. Nothing touches you, but something enters you, not physically, mentally, emotionally. A feeling, ancient, lonely, but not sad, just waiting. Waiting so long it stopped keeping track of time, waiting because it was told to, or programmed to, or born for it. It never speaks, but the message forms clear in your chest. I do not move, because I already know where to be. You pull your hand back, gently. The creature doesn't react, doesn't flinch. It remains, still, and yet you feel like you've been moved, shifted somehow inside, not by fear, not by awe, but by the presence of something that exists, outside of urgency, a being that has seen beginnings and waited for ends, and in between, simply, paused. You drift away slowly, never turning your back. Even though you know it doesn't need your gaze to feel your departure, it waits, it always has. And now, you understand, some creatures in the trench aren't here to be found, they're here to watch who finds them. The current pulls you softly to the left now, no warning, no resistance, just a quiet tug, as if the trench has decided, you're ready, you follow. Not because you trust it, but because by now part of you belongs to it. The rock face narrows again, curving inward like a spiral. It doesn't feel like a cave anymore. It feels like a decision, one made long before you arrived. The water grows still, so still your own heartbeat feels loud. You pass under a low arch, not carved, not grown, just formed by something with intention. And then it opens, a space, a chamber, but no walls, no ceiling, just edges, where the trench suddenly stops being trench and becomes something else. It's not stone anymore. It's not metal either. It's material, but unknown. The surface shimmers like wet glass and yet feels ancient, like something that's always been here. You float in, no pressure, no sound, and for the first time, no water movement. Complete stillness, but you're not floating anymore. You're standing. You look down. There's no floor, just darkness beneath your feet. But your body holds position, upright, like gravity remembered you. Your light flickers, not from malfunction but from confusion, as if the laws it follows don't apply here. And then, on the walls that don't exist, something appears. Not images, not symbols, but moments. They play like memory, projected in liquid air, a whale, long extinct, gliding in warmth, a human hand touching sand that isn't Earth's, a creature blinking without eyes, a diver, maybe you, maybe not, floating upward into light that doesn't belong to the sun. Each vision passes without sound, but each leaves something behind in your chest. a piece of a puzzle you don't remember starting. Then all at once, it stops. Everything's still. The room returns to stillness. But this time, it feels full, like it held a breath with you inside it. You speak, not out loud, just inside your own head. Where am I? And you don't get an answer. You get a presence. Something large. Not physical, not spiritual, just aware. Like the trench itself is watching you from inside this room. No words, just one thought. Not built, remembered. You understand, without knowing how, this room wasn't constructed. It formed, from pressure, time, memory, and silence. As if the trench has been thinking for so long, it finally dreamed something into existence, and now you're standing inside its thought. You look around once more, no doors, no path. But you're not trapped. You're being held. The chamber slowly softens, light fading. The trench doesn't need to say goodbye, because this isn't the end. It's just the part where it lets you carry something back. Something no sonar can map, no scientist can record. You float up again. Not rising, returning. As the room fades behind you, dissolving back into the rock and current, you realize you weren't supposed to find this place. But you didn't break in, you were let in. And now the trench has left a piece of itself inside you, and it knows you'll remember it, even if no one else ever believes you. You've been here so long now, you've stopped wondering how long it's been. Time in the trench isn't a number, it's a feeling, and right now, it feels like something is coming to an end. The current feels different, not pulling, not pushing, just surrounding. Like the trench is holding you gently in its arms, preparing to say something it's never said before. You drift forward, light dimmed low, breath slow and soft. Then you see it, a glimmer, not light, metal, tucked against the trench wall. You swim closer, slow, cautious. A diving suit, old, covered in silt, pressure worn, rust blooming at the joints like coral. No movement, no light, no life, but the body is still inside. You freeze, not from fear, from recognition, not of the person, of the silence. You hover a few feet away, looking through the visor. The face is gone, just shadow now. But something about the posture, the stillness, it doesn't feel like death. It feels like choice. The diver isn't collapsed. They're sitting upright, back against the trench wall, helmet tilted slightly upward, as if they were watching, waiting. You look around, no wreckage, no broken equipment, just them, alone, and somehow not lost. You float closer, rest your hand on the suit's shoulder. The fabric gives slightly, pressure has stiffened it, but not enough to erase the humanity beneath. A name tag, half erased. Only a few letters remain, enough to guess. This wasn't just anyone. This was someone like you, curious, quiet. Sent here to listen to the deep, and maybe they heard too much. You stare into the visor again, and for the faintest moment, maybe it's the reflection, you see your own eyes staring back. Not in the glass, in the silence. You pull away gently, drifting back, and that's when you notice, beside the suit, carved lightly into the rock, still listening, 2 words, etched with something sharp, or maybe just a fingertip pressed against time. You exhale, no tears here, only pressure, and the strange sense of comfort that you're not the only one who made it this far. The trench doesn't collect explorers, it remembers them, not to trap, to honor. You stare at the words one last time, still listening. Maybe that's what you've been doing all along, and maybe that's what the trench has needed all these years. Not discovery, not intrusion, just someone patient enough to hear what it never says aloud. You turn away, slow, light guiding your return, not upward just yet, but back through what the trench has shown you, the creatures, the fossils, the window, the bones, the chamber that dreamed, the still creature. And now, the one who stayed. You're not alone, you never were, because once you really listen to the ocean's deepest silence, it starts listening back. So here you are, back where we started, eyes closed, breath steady, the hum of the day fading into the soft rhythm of night. You might be in your bed, surrounded by pillows and warmth, but your mind is still floating, somewhere far below, somewhere the world rarely reaches, and that's okay. Because journeys like this aren't meant to be wrapped up neatly. They don't have tidy endings or final conclusions. They linger, like the glow of a jellyfish in the dark, like the curve of a forgotten ruin, like the hush of a trench that whispered just loud enough for you to hear. You came here with a question: what happens at the ocean's deepest point? And maybe now you know the real answer. Not in facts or figures, but in feeling. It's not just pressure, it's patience. Not just silence, but attention. Not just darkness, but the kind of depth that makes room for everything. The strange, the ancient, the forgotten, and the never-before-seen. And now, that depth lives inside you. You don't need to return to Challenger Deep to feel it. It's there, in the pause before sleep, in the space between thoughts, in the quiet you carry with you, no matter how loud the world becomes. So, as your breathing slows and your muscles soften, let that stillness rise again. Let the trench hold you, gently, silently, like it did before. You are weightless, you are drifting, and somewhere, far below the waves, the ocean is dreaming with you. Sleep well. Good night. Let that stillness rise again. Let the trench hold you, gently, silently, like it did before. You are weightless, you are drifting, and somewhere, far below the waves, the ocean is dreaming with you. Sleep well. Good night.